Well, hello everybody. Good to see you today. My name is James Sanderson. I'm the evangelism minister here at the Brown Street Church of Christ in Waxahachie, Texas, and it is cold. It is what says the date today? It is the 6th of January, 2025. So it's been a whole year since I've put a video together. But man, yeah, we're supposed to get some snow on this Thursday and Thursday night, so we'll see what happens. But we don't do very good with snow in Texas. It's going to remind me of our Michigan days. Well, today we are looking at, we're in a series, okay, on what the Lord's church should look like. Now, in this series, you're going to get a lot of topical lessons. But we've been kind of in a section here on looking at the structure of the church. And this is lesson number 4 in this series, but it's part 2 on the structure of the church. And today we're going to look at the elders of the church. Okay? We're looking at each of the pieces of the church. And we're going to really look at the elders, the shepherds of the church. And this is going to be an interesting study. So you are on my YouTube channel if we haven't met before. And if you want to get back on there and watch all of my videos or some of them, or see if there's some that really interest you, just type in Saving Souls in the 21st Century and you're going to see I have 2 channels. My newer channel is the one with me standing behind the podium there, and get on those and send them to your friends and whoever and see if they can help. You can use these evangelistically for sure. Also have a website, savingsouls.net. And if you like what you see in this video, please hit the like button. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I am at 999 subscribers. I need just one more to put us in that 1,000 mark so that we can get over the edge and get these videos into a higher number of people. And that's what we're after, to try to reach people for Jesus. All right, enough for the advertisement. So again, we're talking about the structure of the church. And we're looking at the sheep and their protection. And that's the reason that there is structure for the Lord's church, is God is trying to protect us, okay? And if we put it together correctly, it'll work well, and if not, it doesn't. And in lesson 1 we looked at last time, we seen that there is, over in Palestine today, there is still these makeshift sheep pens, okay? And there they are. And the sheep, if they stay in, they're protected. If they get out, then the enemy tries to get in and take them out. And the shepherd lays in the gate. So that concept is used in the Bible. And so there you can see, there's that shepherd. He lays in the gate protecting those sheep. And that's who we're going to discuss today, is those shepherds. Now, when we look at our world today, our denominational world, we see that there is a vast difference in how they structure the so-called churches versus how the Lord structures the church. Here's a couple examples here. Last time we looked at the Catholic Church. Well, what's their structure? Well, they've got a pope. They've got cardinals and archbishops and priests, okay? The pope, the cardinals, and archbishops are not biblical. These are something that are man-made, okay? This is an entirely different structure on how the church of the New Testament is supposed to be run. And so you have a lot of problems with this kind of structure. If you're going with the Mormon church over here, okay, well, they have the first presidency and prophet and 2 counselors, okay, at the top, all right. Their headquarters is unlike the Catholic Church, which is in the Vatican in Rome, Italy, well, their headquarters is in Salt Lake City, Utah, okay. Then they have the quorum of the 12 apostles, so they actually have 12 apostles that are alive today that rule from Salt Lake City, Utah. Then you got the quorum of the 70. These are area presidents. And then you got stakes. and then you've got bishops, and then you've got wards, and that's what they call the church, is wards. So right across the street from us is one of those wards, okay? And in Texas, there's 80 stakes, and then within those, there are 616 wards or individual churches. Totally different structure than what the Bible structures the church. And then you've got the Jehovah's Witness, which is also right across the street from us. And if you'll look here, they've got Jehovah God at the top, then they got Jesus Christ, and they believe in a whole different Jesus than the Bible teaches. And then this is the big one here. They've got the governing body. Okay, so their headquarters is in New York City, and they've got the watchtower there, okay? And there are 8 on this, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 people, 8 men that are in their governing body, and they make all the decisions. And you can't go against these guys. Whatever they say, that's what goes. And it's the same with the Pope, with the Catholic Church. Whatever they say, whatever he says, that's what goes. And it's the same with the Mormon Church. Whatever those 12 apostles come up with, that's what goes. That's not the structure of the Church of Jesus Christ. So there's a lot of differences out there in our world today. But we're not looking for all that. We're not concerned about what man does and what he designs. We want to know how God designs the church. And so in our last study, we looked at the most important piece, and that's the chief cornerstone. And who is that chief cornerstone? It's Jesus. He's the head of the church, okay? That's what the book of Ephesians says. So he's the head of the church, the most important piece. And if you get that piece out of whack, the whole structure is going to fall. And it does whenever that doesn't happen. And so he is the first and most important piece to the structure of the church, the cornerstone. And then everything branches out from there. So Jesus is the cornerstone. Then you have the foundation of the church. And this is the apostles and New Testament prophets. And that's also what the book of Ephesians says, that that's who is the foundation of the church. Now, why the apostles and New Testament prophets? Well, what you'll see here is that when you have the New Testament, all of these letters were written by either apostles, A, or P for prophets, okay? And they give instructions to the church coming from God out of their mouths because they're inspired and telling us how the church should be. So that's why they're the foundation. So that is the next piece in the structure of the church, okay? So we get that information from them coming from God, okay? Now, we're going to be in lesson 2 today. And today we're going to look at the piece number 3, the gate watchers, or the shepherds, or elders, or overseers. Okay? These are people who are alive today that are in place in the structure of the church. So let's go over here to 1 Peter chapter 5, and let's see what the Bible has to say about these men. 1 Peter 5:1 says, "Therefore I exhort the elders among you as your fellow elder and witness of the sufferings of Christ, and a partaker also of the glory that is to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntarily, according to the will of God, and not for sore gain, but with eagerness, nor yet as lording it over those allotted to your charge, by proving to be examples to the flock." So you see 3 different words here that I have highlighted: elders, shepherd, and oversight. Now, these men can use all 3 of those names. And what those 3 names do is they describe who these men are, what they do. Okay? When you go to Acts chapter 20, you will see the same thing. So here when you go to Acts 20 verse 17, here's Paul, and he is calling down the elders from Ephesus, okay, the church in Ephesus, the Ephesian church. He's calling them down to meet with them at Miletus. And verse 17 says, from Miletus he sent to Ephesus and called for the elders of the church. Who are they? Elders. Verse 28, a little bit farther down, says, therefore take heed to yourselves and to all the flock. Okay? Taking care of the flock. Shepherds. Among which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers, to shepherd the church of God, which he purchased with his own blood. For I know that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also from among yourselves men will arise up, speaking perverse things, to draw away the disciples after themselves. Therefore watch and remember that for 3 years I did not cease to warn every one of you night and day with tears. So you can see here that you have 3 different names that I've highlighted: elders, overseers, and shepherds. And again, what it is doing is it's describing what these men do within the church. They're to take care of the flock. So depending on your translation, okay, it's going to use, the newer translations are going to use the word elders. The older translations are going to use the word presbyters, okay? And with this, what do you get? They're elders or presbyters. You get, especially with the word elder, older, wiser, more experienced. Okay? All right? Makes sense? And it's not so much a title like, oh, you are a, not like, when you see the Pope, okay? Or some of these other people, oh, you're the governing body of the Jehovah's Witness. All it is when we have an elder is it's just describing what he is, okay? He's older, he's more experienced. And then we have overseers, newer translation, that describes what they do, or bishops, older translations. Same word, okay, in the Greek. And this word tells you what these men do. They are overseeing the work of the church, okay? All right? So there's that piece in the puzzle of the church. And again, not so much as a title, but it's just describing what they do. They oversee the church. And then you have the last one, shepherds, or the word pastors. Okay? Pastors. And they shepherd, protect, and care for the Christians, which are the sheep. Okay? So when you put all 3 of these together, you're going to get a good description of who these men are. They're elders, overseers, and shepherds. It tells what they do. Okay? And again, it's not so much of a title, but it's more of a job description. Now, let's go over here to this word pastors, okay? All right? Look what it said. This is the only time the word pastor is used. Now, I know this is used a lot in our denominational world. Lots of people call the preachers, okay, at churches, they call them pastors, okay? Well, I want to straighten this word out here. It was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for works of service so that the body of Christ might be built up. So what is the role of evangelists, pastors, and teachers in the church? It's to equip the church for works of service. Okay? All right? Now, let's go over here and let's look at a different translation. That was the NIV. But look at the English Standard Version. The English Standard Version does the best at translating this word. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers to equip saints for works of ministry for the building up of the body of Christ. Okay? So, here it uses the word shepherds. Now, what do we see what shepherds do in the church? Well, the shepherds are the overseers. The overseers are the elders. The elders are the shepherds. Okay? Now, what you'll see is they're always used in the plurality, so that you never have this a dictator kind of thing, okay? And what has happened is this same word for shepherd is what some translations have translated pastors. And in our world, they have switched that. And they have taken the role of these elders, shepherds, and overseers and flipped it over to the preacher. We're not talking about preachers in the church. That's going to be a study still coming down the road here, okay, in a couple of weeks. We're talking about pastors, which is who? Shepherds, okay? And what our world has done is they've flip-flopped that and gave the role of shepherds to the preacher. And instead of having a plurality of shepherds, you have a single preacher or pastor. And if you notice here, do you see this word evangelist? The evangelist is the preacher. And what the world has done is they have flip-flopped those roles. And it's caused a lot of problems in our world today. And that's what happens when you change the structure of the church. You flip-flop the role of a preacher and you stick him into the role of the shepherd, and now you just have one man and he becomes a dictator, and it causes all kinds of problems in our denominational world. And that is not the way God set it up. So when you come to the Lord's church, we don't call our preachers pastors, okay? Because that's a whole different role. That's the role of elders, shepherds, and overseers, not the role of a preacher. Don't get the two confused, okay? Now, what do we see? We see that a shepherd needs to spend time with his sheep. So let's go over here to John 10. Here's an analogy that is being made to Jesus. Now watch the analogy. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter by the door into the fold of the sheep, but climbs up some other way, he's a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Okay? To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them. So that means the sheep know him. Okay? They know him by name. That means the shepherd is spending time with these sheep. When he puts forth all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. A stranger they simply will not follow, but will flee from him because they do not know his voice of the strangers. This figure of speech Jesus spoke to them, but they did not understand what these things were, what had been saying, or what they were saying to them. Sorry, I can't see that word right behind my picture there. So, again, a shepherd needs to spend time with his sheep. So all these men carry out the same function within the church. Jesus refers to himself as the gate of the sheep pen. So if you would have kept reading down, he says, look, I am the gate. Okay? And that's where that shepherd, he lies in that gate. He is the gate. Shepherds of the church are to image Jesus in their role as shepherds of the church. They are to act as the gate in a sense. Therefore, no sheep escapes and no enemy gets in unless he first crosses the shepherd of the church. So those shepherds need to be in place. So the more time spent with the sheep, the less apt they'll be the more apt they'll be to follow. Okay? The more time that shepherd spends with the sheep, the more apt that sheep will be willing to follow. And that's what God's after. And here's a really good book. It's called They Smell Like Sheep by Len Anderson. He did this quite a few years ago, but it's a wonderful book. And you need to really get this, especially if you're an elder or shepherd in the church. You need to get this book, and it's a real easy read, and it's got a lot of really good concepts in there. So there's that shepherd, and he smells like the sheep because he's with them, and he really drives that home in this book. It's good, makes some good points. Now, let me just tell you about a true story. So here one day I think there were like 5 different groups of herds of sheep, and they all came together. And when they all came together, and they were on the edge of this cliff. Okay, here's these shepherds. There's 5 different shepherds, and they got all these sheep together. Okay, and then these shepherds said to themselves, you know what? Let's go over here and have breakfast. So they left the sheep, and they went away to have breakfast. While they were gone, one sheep decided to jump off of that cliff. Okay? True story. When the shepherds came back, they saw that once one sheep jumped, then another sheep jumped, and another sheep jumped, and they're just following each other off of that cliff. And when they got back, they found over 400 dead sheep piled on the edge of the cliff. Why? Because the shepherds left the sheep. And that's why it's so important for those shepherds to be in the lives of those sheep, to be involved with them, know them. They know the shepherds, they know their names, and they help to take care of them. That's why that's the role of a shepherd. When a shepherd leaves, that shepherd goes after him. Remember, if he's in the gate, he's going to know if a sheep leaves or not. So let's go over here to Luke 15. Luke 15, we know it for the story of the prodigal son, but there's actually 3 stories here. There's not only the lost son, there's also a story of the lost coin, and there's also the story of the lost sheep. Now watch what it says here. What man of you having 100 sheep, so saying you're a shepherd, right? Got 100 of them. If he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one who was lost until he finds it. And when he had found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. That's what a shepherd does. He goes after the sheep. And so in the church, who should know when individuals leave the church? Our shepherds. That's right. And they need to go after them to bring them back into the fold. That is the purpose of a shepherd. Okay? So it's a high responsibility. Now let me just say this. I believe out of all the different pieces in the church, the role of a shepherd, if it's done properly, is the hardest job in the church. Okay? We don't have Jesus with us here on earth. That was a difficult job. The apostles, foundation of the church, and prophets, right? We don't have them with us today. But the people that we have in place today, the way God has designed it, I believe their job is the hardest. It takes a lot of work. Now you think about here at Brown Street, we've got almost 1,000 members here. Okay? We have 10 elders. Okay? That means that each shepherd is responsible for how many sheep? 100. That's a lot of people that he's got to watch out for. Oh, that's a bunch. That's a huge responsibility. I think we need some more shepherds. We do. We sure do. Now, a shepherd leads his sheep. So I want you to see this picture here. I love this picture. A shepherd leads the sheep, okay? He doesn't drive the sheep, he leads them, all right? Not driving. There's a difference. Look at the text here. We'll go back here and we'll start off. Let's go down to verse 4. We've read this before, but let's read it again. When he puts forth all his own, Jesus says, he goes ahead of them. Oh, he goes in front of them. See, he's leading, and he's leading by example. And the sheep follow him because they know his voice. A stranger they will simply not follow, but will flee from him because they do not know the voice of strangers. So that's what a shepherd does. He leads by example. Okay? Let's go over here to 1 Peter 5, 1 through 3. Therefore I exhort the elders among you, your fellow elder and witness of the sufferings of Christ, and a partaker also of the glory that is to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God, which is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but voluntarily, according to the will of God, and not for sore gain, but with eagerness, nor yet as lording it over those allotted to your charge, but proving to be examples to the flock. I remember being in the Army, where we used to go out and play Army for a week. I was in a supply unit over in Germany, okay? This was back in the early 80s. And I remember that we would have guys that would just get out of school. They'd be lieutenants, all right? And they would sit here and they would point, hey, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this. That's kind of like lording it over, all right? But then now they were just out of school, all right? Then you had a guy who was a sergeant major. This guy has been in the Army for 30 years, okay? And he's not an officer, but boy, he's got a lot of rank. And he would also tell us to go do something. And this is how he would do it. He'd say, guys, let's go over here and dig this foxhole together. And he, of 30 years, would get down there and help dig that foxhole. Which one do you think you would respect better? The guy that actually went down there and helped you do it together, or the guy that just sits over there and says, go do this, go do this, go do this, go do this? Yeah. You know the answer, don't you? We respected that sergeant major. He didn't have to get down there and dig that foxhole, okay? But he got down there with us, and we had all the respect in the world for him. And that's what a good shepherd does. He never does or tells somebody to do something that he isn't already doing, okay? And willing to get right in there with us. And that's what a good shepherd does. He leads. He doesn't drive. Big difference. A shepherd also protects his sheep. Well, how does he protect his sheep? How does a shepherd do that? Well, let's go back here to a verse that we've already read back here in Acts 20. Let's go down to verse 29. For I know this, that after my departure, Paul says, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also from among yourselves men will rise up speaking perverse things. Watch that. Speaking perverse things. We're talking about false teaching here. To draw away disciples after themselves. Hey, you come follow me. Therefore watch and remember that for 3 years I did not cease to warn every one of you night and day with tears. Now let's go over to Titus. Titus also has some elders here. The reason I left you in Crete was that you might straighten out what was left unfinished and appoint elders in every town as I directed you. Now go down to verse 9. He must, elder, must hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so that he can encourage others by sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it. So what's an elder to do? He's supposed to know the Word of God. And he's supposed to stand in that gate. He's supposed to try to keep Satan out. Satan's always trying to get in and destroy them sheep. And so if that elder, that shepherd, knows the Word of God well, he can stand up and encourage people with sound doctrine. And he's going to be able to tell when there's false doctrine and say, wait a minute, that's not coming in here. Okay? And as you can see in our world, it has. That's why we have so many different churches, so many different practices, because they've gotten away from the Word of God. And when you look at it, it's like, wait a minute, this isn't the church that Jesus built. This isn't their design. This isn't the design that the Lord built his church this way. This is man's way. And so that's how an elder protects his sheep, by refuting those who oppose it. He's got to know his Bible. That's right. So we got to make sure, if you're an elder in the church, shepherd in the church, you know your book. Now, let me just share a story with you. I've got to tell you that I've seen a lot of elders in the church, okay? And my first work, we didn't have any elders. We didn't have men that met the qualities that an elder should, and so we didn't have them. And then I went to my next work in Saginaw, Michigan, and we had elders there. Then I went to Chickasha, Oklahoma. We had elders there. Great men in both places. Then I went to went to Abilene, to the Baker Heights Church of Christ. We had elders there, wonderful men. And now here at Brown Street. Now I just got to tell you that here's what happens. Me being a man, I love to see results. Okay? And there's something about a guy that just likes to build things. Okay? All right? Well, I remember in northern Michigan, I was in northern Michigan, and we were right by Lake Michigan, and we had a modular home. Well, if you know anything about modular homes, they will give you like this metal staircase. Okay, when we bought this home, it still had it there coming down. It's kind of not that good looking of a staircase. So I got rid of that, and I decided to build a deck. And I built that deck. And I built a deck on the front, and then I built another one on the side. And it was just so good to just build something and stand back and say, look, I've accomplished something. This is not a real picture of this. I couldn't build this good. But I built a deck, and I was proud of that because I've accomplished something. There's something about guys, they want to accomplish things. They want to see results, okay? Being an elder and dealing with people, sometimes you won't see results. You can spend years with people, dealing with marriages and families and trying to convert people and bring them to Christ, and then see them walk away and walk away and walk away and just not do what they need to be doing in their lives. And that can be very disheartening. And so what I'm saying is when an elder sees that and then sees it again and sees it again, they can get disheartened, and their tendency is, I want to go do something that I can see results in. And so what they do is they look at the church and go, instead of dealing with the people, let me go over here and let's deal with the parking lot, or let's fix the lights in the building, or let's do this, or the buses, or whatever it is. And they get involved with that because they can actually accomplish something. Look, we did this, and we changed that, and we made this better. Here's the problem. That's not their role. Their role is to deal with the people. That's what an elder is to do. And sometimes it can be very disheartening, and sometimes you can put years into people and never see any results. And so their job is difficult. And so I just want to encourage elders, look, stay away from the parking lot. Stay away from all of those things. I know it's your tendency to do that, okay? And I've seen it in churches It's just, it happens everywhere. But focus on the people. Focus on the marriages. Focus on their spiritual health. Focus on them. That is your role. Don't be tempted to go over there and do the parking lot and all these other things. And as we're going to see, that is the role of the deacons in the church. And if each piece of the structure of the church does their part and does it properly, the church will function properly. And so I just want to encourage those men, because they do have a difficult job, and it is tough dealing with people. Now, in turn, the sheep follow their shepherd or shepherds. So what does it say for us sheep? It says in Hebrews 13:17, obey those who rule over you and be submissive, for they watch over your souls as those who must give account. Let them do so with joy and not with grief, for that would not be profitable for you. Don't give these elders a hard time. Don't give these shepherds a hard time. They're doing the best they can. Will they make mistakes? Yes, they're human. Okay? But be submissive to them, okay? And good shepherds will come along and say, hey man, we messed this up. We need to do this differently, or we need to do that differently. They'll get it, okay? But don't give them a hard time, okay? Obey those leaders. Because if you keep giving them a hard time, it's going to be unprofitable for the church. And we could actually lose a lot of good men. So be kind and loving and be thankful for those elders, because they do have a very, very difficult job. And that's the role of the shepherds, the gatekeepers. They smell like the sheep. And this is an older picture of our elders here at Brown Street. Some of these men are not in place anymore, but this was a few years back. We've got some newer ones. But a great bunch of men, and I highly respect them, and I'm so thankful for them. And they do such a wonderful job here at Brown Street. And I pray that if you're watching this from Brown Street, you are praying for these men. They're very wonderful people. Conclusion. If each piece does their role properly, Christ is the cornerstone. The foundation of the church, where we get our instructions from, is that New Testament, apostles and New Testament prophets, okay? The sheep will be protected. They'll stay in, right? The shepherds are going to see to that. They're going to take care of those sheep and watch over them, right? The ministers, preachers, they're going to do their role. We're going to see that in a lesson in the future. We're going to see the deacons, if they do their role. If everybody does their role, those sheep will stay in and stay protected. And this guy is going to stay out. And that's the design of the church. If every piece does their part, then guess what we'll have? We will have a protected sheep. And this guy will take a hike. And isn't that what we want? We want that protected sheep. So I pray you've been blessed with this lesson. There's a lot to elders. There's a lot to these shepherds. They've got a huge responsibility. And again, pray for them. Be thankful for them. Support them. Don't give them a hard time. And be thankful for them. And let's make sure that they're doing their job correctly as God has designed it. I love you. We'll see you next time, and we'll see how to put elders into place in our next lesson and look at the qualities or qualifications that these men are to have biblically. Hey, we'll see you next time. God bless you.